Hello, my name is Roy Phelps and I'm here today with Bevan & Buckland Chartered Accountants Tax Director Lee Bradley to look at HMRC tax investigations. And Lee, I think most business owners would agree that a tax investigation is something they would like to avoid at all costs. So perhaps you can tell me, how does a business get selected for a tax investigation?
Well, Roy, there are several ways, in fact. You can be selected randomly, where they will just pick your name out of a hat if you want, and then you'll receive a letter. There is the where HMRC target certain sectors, so they would look at, for example, taxi drivers, which is a cash business, and they will look at then taxi drivers throughout the UK. Then there are the where there's anomalies in your accounts. So if, for example, you have repairs at £1,000 one year, and the following year they go up to £10,000, you may get an inquiry because of that. And lastly, and unfortunately, the HMRC do have a helpline that people can phone if they want to report people that they believe are not paying their taxes. So if you upset a member of staff, for example, and they feel that you're doing something untoward, they could in fact report you.
Oh, right, oh dear. So tell me then, what are the most common types of HMRC investigations, Lee?
Well, HMRC can investigate into any type of tax, but the main ones would be into your, say, company accounts. You could have a full-on aspect inquiry. And the aspect inquiry is where they pick certain elements of the accounts and ask questions, whereas a full inquiry is where they ask for all the records that would have gone to your accountant, and they review every aspect of those accounts. The other types are your VAT compliance visit, they're called, and that's where HMRC will come and visit your premises, go through your records, make sure your VAT returns are correct, etc. They can be quite helpful, but obviously if they find anomalies, they will ask for the tax back and potentially charge a penalty. And the other big one then would be the PAYE audit, where they come in, they're called PAYE compliance checks, where they will come in to look at how the staff are paid, if everything's being taxed correctly, whether the benefit in kinds are being reported, if you're paying staff in cash. They're looking at that type of aspects, which will also lead them potentially to when they look into the status of staff. So if you're using self-employed individuals that are in fact they believe to be employed, they will look at that aspect as well. Those are the three big ones I would suggest.
So what should the business owners do when they receive a letter or telephone call from HMRC informing them that they are under inquiry?
Well, the first thing, quite simply, is just to phone their accountant, because it's important that they have representation. At the end of the day, the accountant may not be able to save them thousands and thousands. There may not be tax to pay, there may be tax to pay. But what the accountant will do is they'll make the inquiry go smoothly, and they'll hopefully take the stress away from the client.
But is it expensive from an accountancy fee perspective?
It can be. So, for example, you could have an aspect inquiry that will ask a few questions. One letter will be sent, they'll be satisfied, and it'll be over, costing, say, £300. On the other hand, you could have a full-blown inquiry that goes on for years, which will result in costs of thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds. So it can get very expensive. I've seen them run over into the tens of thousands. Now, a lot of accountants, and certainly at Bevan & Buckland, we offer a tax investigation service, it's called, where you pay a monthly fee of as little as £11.36 plus VAT per month on direct debit, and then it's underwritten by an insurance company which will pay for everything when it comes to the inquiry, pay for all accountancy costs. It won't cover the tax if you owe it, but it will cover all the professional fees, up as far as taking it to the courts if you do not agree with HMRC decision. So it is worthwhile always considering that if you're in business.
Do you deal with businesses that are not clients of Bevan & Buckland?
Yes, we do. I have a team of people that specialise in inquiries. So a lot of the time, if an accountant has an inquiry and they're not feeling confident enough to deal with it, the client will be referred to us, because we deal with these on a daily basis. We have a relationship with HMRC, with a lot of the local inspectors, and we can then take care of it on that person's behalf. I think it's important for when a client is dealing with an inquiry to ensure that they have the specialist advice in this area, otherwise it can get expensive.
Have you any tips, any priorities that people should deal with?
I think the most important thing for any business is to keep good records, because if you've got records of everything and you can prove everything, then an inquiry will go a lot easier. And if, like everything, if HMRC think you've done a good job of looking after the records and making sure that you can prove everything you've done, then they'll be more than happy just to give you a nice big tick and say thank you very much. And I suppose the other thing is, if there are any things that are unusual, write down an explanation, because if you have an inquiry 2 years later, you may have forgotten why something has happened, why there was a credit to the bank account, whatever. And the last thing I would say, and the best thing I find for any inquiry, is photographs. If you're doing, for example, if you're doing up a property and you're doing a lot of repairs to it, even though you'll have the invoices, if you take photos of what you've done, a picture will speak 1,000 words. So I think that's probably the best tip I can give anyone.